preacher, and I'm also a member of the Secular Education Network, which is opposing Bible in schools. And so from my Christian friends, other people will say, why are you so negative about Bible in schools? These Bible teachers are supposed to be our Christian buddies, which they are, but when these buddies start treating other people in the community as second-class citizens, then I believe we should stop and say, hang on buddy, these programs of yours are causing pain to other people in the community who happen not to be Christians. It's similar to the pain that was felt by black people in South Africa. We played rugby against white Springbok teams up to 1981. Now the rugby people in New Zealand at that time were not racist, but they were going along with racism. And protesters, including myself, said we have to say stop. And this was the most brutal piece of New Zealand history I have ever been through. I was, at the time of the rugby match in Hamilton that led to the huge outbreak of violence, I was sitting in a newsroom in Auckland at Radio New Zealand with a number of reporters and sports reporters, and as we heard the story of the protesters breaking onto the game and the match being cancelled and the crowds of rugby people trying to attack the protesters and the police having to rescue them and shooing them off, I was in a moment of shock as I realised that half the people in this room where I was were in favour of the tour, the other half were not. We were almost strangers to each other. We hadn't recognised it. One of my friends, who was reporting on it in Hamilton, actually had to run for his life from rugby people who were out to hurt him and many others. We had a safe house in Hamilton where Radio New Zealand reporters could shelter from violence. The violence was expected and it happened. That was one of the most awful moments of my life, and yet it showed how we were divided between people who said, let's play with the South Africans, and others who said, let's care about the black South Africans. By playing against a selected team, we were accepting the idea that black South Africans were inferior. Well, I'm glad that within a year or so of that time, pretty well all New Zealanders came to feel it was wrong, and now all of us can feel a sense of pride that apartheid has stopped, and we play against mixed race teams from South Africa, and we can say, we helped that to happen. Well, it's the same, I believe, with school Bible programs. I would say it is spiritual apartheid. The people who teach Bible in schools are not necessarily hating other people from other religions. They don't necessarily hate non-religious people. They just have a book full of stories which happens not to mention those other people. The other people are discriminated against just by being ignored. So I would say the Bible in schools is something that should stop. The damage that's done by programs such as Bible in schools is not obvious. If you were to attend one of these programs, as I did a few months ago, it would not be very much different from the kind of Sunday school we'd have in our class here. The difference is that other people there would be shocked by it. And I'll give you two examples, which people here will know of. In Epsom Normal School in Auckland 3 years ago, they had Bible in schools there, and they had lots of Muslims in that area. There were 40 Muslim students, and their parents withdrew them from Bible in schools. I heard this story from the Bible in schools teacher herself. And she said, one of the kids came up to her and said, please miss, I don't believe what you are saying. And he was quite shocked to hear these ordinary little Bible stories that we would teach here every Sunday. And she said, that's all right. You don't have to believe these stories. You keep on believing your Muslim beliefs. But she said to me, she really felt the pain of those kids. And when the parents pulled 40 of those kids out of that school, she said she understood it, she appreciated it. What she was doing, even her own Christian lessons, were hurting these kids. And so they cancelled it, and several other schools in the country cancelled it because what was a good Christian story was a source of pain to somebody else. Another child came home from a religious instruction class, and this was not one because they didn't even know that this was in a Bible class, so it wouldn't be wrongly. But they believed in science, they believed in evolution, and it was a shock to find that their own daughter didn't. And they said, well, there are dinosaurs, there are bones of dinosaurs in display in museums. And this child said, no, but those bones are just plastic. And of course they're right, they are just plastic replicas if you go to a museum. And so these parents had several days explaining to the daughter that science really was true, and they had this pain of trying to defend their own belief in science because a Bible teacher who didn't believe in science, it imposed her thoughts in the heads of other children. Now those are two examples of the pain that is caused by Bible in schools. The pain also affects adults because many adults don't believe in this kind of thing that's in the Bible. And one of them is Clay Nelson, minister of the St. Matthew's church not far from here. And he came out and said Bible in schools is wrong for this kind of reason. And he immediately, within a week or so, 3 Anglican bishops jumped down his throat. He's had people from other churches saying he shouldn't even call himself a Christian. So he is suffering from that same kind of prejudice, the assumption of Christian people that anybody who doesn't accept traditional beliefs must have something wrong with them. I have had similar things myself, because I've been in the campaign against Bible in schools, and I've had hate messages from people in other parts of the country. One person said to me, "You're an atheist, aren't you?" As if there was something wrong with being an atheist. And in fact, I'm not an atheist, but I share with people who are atheists in this campaign. In other words, this person hated atheists, and she hated me because I was on the same team as atheists. And this is the kind of prejudice that runs not just through Bible schools, it runs through our whole community. There are Christian people who think they are superior. In fact, one person who was a Methodist leader said this explicitly. He said he supports Bible in schools because it's about values, and our society is based on Christian values. Well, I want to say that that's not correct. Christian values are a big part of it, but there are many other stories and many other values in our community that don't come from Christian sources. In fact, in the book of Acts, which is in the Christian Bible, there are about a dozen stories which pay tribute to people who are not Christians. And I was quite startled when I found this, and I'd like to give you 4 examples in this book of good people who were not Christians. One of them was a story about a rabbi called Gamaliel. He lived at the time of Jesus, and he is still honoured by Jewish people today. A few weeks after Jesus was killed, the Christian leaders in Jerusalem were demonstrating outside the temple, and they were saying that the Jewish leaders were evil for killing Jesus. It wasn't that the Jews killed it, it was the Romans, but some Jewish people were quite happy about it. Well, these Christians who were going around Jerusalem protesting, they got arrested by the Jewish council, and there were some members of the Sadducee group who wanted to have them killed for what they were saying. And they said, let's kill these people for rebelling against God. And Gamaliel got up, and he was a Pharisee. He said, don't kill them, because there have been other rebels in the past, and the Roman authorities came and squashed them, that was the end of them. And if these Christian people are acting for God and you oppose them, you might find that you are acting against God. And so he said, have an open mind about these Christians, leave them alone, and let God attack them when he wants to. Now, I was amazed when I first heard this, because my impression of the Pharisees was that they were bad people, they were hypocrites, they opposed Jesus, and that's the impression you get from the Gospels. But here is the story in the book of Acts. It says, this Pharisee, an open-minded man, he encouraged the Christians even though he didn't believe what they said. Now, this was a long while ago, but it's still important today because the hatred against Jewish people that you will read of in the Christian Gospels was a very biased account, and there were other people like the writer of the book of Acts who said Christians and Jews were friendly, and this is important because our Christian church goes back to this period, but so do the Jewish people. And the Jewish people today honour the Pharisees. They are the ancestors of modern Judaism today. So when somebody in Bible schools gets up and says, the Pharisees are these bad people, they did this, and the and they were so narrow-minded people. When you say those stories, you are insulting the Jewish people of today. And this is what happens in Bible schools. Jewish people are regularly insulted because they read these stories, which are stories, biased stories, written from a Christian viewpoint. Another good role model from the book of Acts is a pagan, or polytheist, to be a better word. But polytheism, or belief in many gods, is spread right throughout the Roman Empire. Missionaries like St. Paul preached against it. But these polytheists were open-minded people. They didn't mind people. They believed in dozens of gods. If you came along to them and said, well, I don't believe in the goddess Diana, and they'd say, fine, you pick your own god. They were tolerant people. But at one time, Paul pushed the edges of their tolerance. He got up in Ephesus, in the amphitheatre in the centre of town, which Marion and I visited about a year ago, and he said, the goddess Diana is rubbish, and she doesn't really exist. And he was a very popular preacher. Lots of people came around and listened to him. And he was so popular that people, in that town of Ephesus, they used to make silver souvenirs about the goddess Diana. And the people who were stopping buying these souvenirs, and the silversmiths who made them got upset. So they came to the amphitheatre where Paul was preaching, and they all started shouting him down. They shouted, "Great is Diana," the Ephesians, "Great is Diana," and they kept this up for 2 hours. And St. Luke, who wrote the story, was amused by it and said, the ones who came at the end didn't even know what they were shouting about. They all kept shouting, "Great is Diana," to the Ephesians. And a Jewish person got up and said, and started speaking, and they realised in the crowd the Jewish people didn't believe Diana, so they started shouting them down for another 2 hours. And eventually, the story ends with the town clerk of Ephesus, who himself believed in Diana, appealing for people to give Paul a fair hearing. Can you imagine this? Can you imagine a Muslim person today, and someone's attacking Islam, coming on saying, let's give these people a fair hearing, let's let them attack the Prophet Muhammad, if that's what they believe. And this is what this man did. He said, give Paul a fair hearing. If he has done something wrong, we'll make a complaint to the Roman authorities. But if he has not done anything wrong, then you're in danger of being charged with rioting. So there's this example. And today still, people who believe in multiple gods, as Hindus do, are some of the most tolerant people on earth. Muslim people, Hindu people, I'm told, are among a few people in New Zealand who don't oppose Bible in schools. And the reason they don't is they've got so many gods, if you add one more, that's no big deal. And so polytheism is by its very nature tolerant. And in New Zealand, most people, most of them not all, are tolerant of different religions. We've got lots more Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, people from other countries coming into New Zealand, and most people tolerate them. So where do they learn this tolerance? Well, they didn't learn it from Christianity. They learned it from polytheistic people, like this town clerk in Ephesus. And so to say all our values come from Christianity is nonsense. Many of our values of religious tolerance come from other religions, which some of us are catching up with slowly. There's another good role model in the same story, and that is the role model of Roman law. And when this town clerk was trying to calm the crowd down, in the background were Roman soldiers. They were not there physically, but they would have been within a few hundred yards away to keep peace if it broke out. And when this town clerk was speaking about them, he was implying that the Roman soldiers would have been totally impartial. If Paul had been going over the top in his attack on these idol worshippers, the Roman authorities could have arrested him. If the crowd got out of hand and had beaten up Paul, the Roman authorities would have stepped on the other side. Now this is the rule of law. We all recognise the rule of law. Rule of law dates back to the Roman law of that time in the first century. We have learned Roman law from the Romans. Our own legal system is full of Latin terms because we've got the value of law and protection of minorities. We learned